The crowds began to arrive in the town on Saturday night, and by Sunday morning the square had come to life. Over 54,000 visitors travelled to Thurles for the match. From early morning, the cars were arriving, jammed with supporters from all over Ireland. The Munster final is more than just a sporting occasion. It has the atmosphere of a huge festival, and the activity around the town beforehand is almost as exciting as the game itself. The Corkmen flooded the town before the Clare supporters arrived. Apart from the usual sea of red and white flags, the exuberance of their rigouts and their mascots reflected the enormous confidence of a team which has a long history of success behind it. But for Clare, who haven't won an All-Ireland since 1914 or a Munster final since 1932, it was the culmination of the enormous effort which has built up a team which they felt could make it this time and regain the provincial title they last held 46 years ago. Scoring in the first half was slow. The Cork team were the first to score, but Clare weren't far behind with points. But at half-time, Clare were still behind, with the score at Cork 5 points to Clare 3. Has it been a tough game so far, do you think?
It has been a peculiar game, not a great game. I think tension has caught both teams, particularly Clare in the early minutes, as you could see when Durek tried to catch that first ball from Gerald McCarthy and missed it. That is not Durek's form, but he has steadied down quite a lot, and the Clare defence has steadied down too. And their attack has been dangerous on the few occasions they've run in. Casey, Pat O'Connor and Honan, who is doing a great deal of work.
Well, now they are going to play with the wind this time.
Yes.
How will it be? Would you like to predict?
Well, unless the wind dies down, I think Clare are there now with a very good chance of winning. Of course, we can never know how a hurling match will go. Cork will still try to rise. Some stroke of bad luck or some stroke of good luck, a wrong hopping ball. But I do give Clare a very good chance at this time with the wind behind them.
And when Clare went into the second half playing with the wind, their supporters, though worried, had high hopes for them. But the Cork team, having moved two of their players to different positions, took control of the game fairly early on. Any hopes that the Clare forwards would gain strength as they played with the wind were quickly dashed by the power of the Cork defence. Within 11 minutes, Cork had surged ahead with a lead of 5 points. Though Clare came back with another 2 points, Cork lost no time in regaining their lead. It looked then as if Cork were fully in charge of the game, but the Clare men kept trying.
And giving us the support when we needed it. I'd also like to compliment Clare on a great victory. As the saying goes, there's only one team can win, and that's Cork. Thank you very much. Oh, Johnny.
Well, it's the second time I've ever cried coming off the field after a match. I cried after being beaten in the Munster Under-21 final. And this time I feel very dejected. It will take me a few days to get over it.
Did you feel at any stage that you were nearly there?
But I felt we may have got a penalty up to the last couple of minutes, and we may have got a draw, we might have levelled, but off hours I felt weren't just moving, like, and we just weren't in the running like in the finish.
Are you hopeful all the same that you might get it together again next year?
Well, it's a difficult question. Like, we have to go back and face the league again, and we'll have our usual critics saying that we're just a league team, not a championship team. I'm sure we will, and we'll get over this phase of disappointment and things will settle down again, but it gets harder and harder to come back.
When we started out 4 years ago, our aim was to win in All Ireland. You may think inside this dressing room that aim is kind of forgotten now, but I can tell you it's not forgotten. We're still a very young team, just a few fellas that mightn't last the pace over the next few years. But we were beaten before, and I'm telling you, we're going to get back again.
Father, you're terribly disappointed, I suppose, but do you feel they'll be able to come back again?
Oh yeah, I'd just only like to pick up where Ger left off, that this Clare team is definitely young enough. Beaten by 2 points today, it means that we're terribly disappointed, but it also means that we're going to come back to try again.
Well, at half-time it was 5-3. Were you hopeful at that stage?
Yeah, well, it looked good enough. I suppose it looked better outside than it did in here. Obviously, we're playing Cork in a Munster final, 2 points down at half-time. The breeze wasn't that strong, but we were reasonably confident at half-time. Are
you happy with your team's performance?
I don't think I could be any happier. The team have given everything they've got, and they gave it today again. And as Ger said, they're young enough to come back again, and they will be back
next year.
With the help of God.
Thanks, Father. Were you hopeful at any stage of that match that you might?
Oh yes. Oh, it's half time, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And then up to the 5 minutes from the end, yeah, I thought Clare would win. I had a few old bets with some of the lads in there, the Cork TDs, including Jack, Taoiseach, an old fiver or Jack or a tenner. I forget what bet we had, but we'll pay one another win.
You'll have it again next year.
Here's Sean French and the rest of them. We always bet. Yeah, I always bet at the lads. But I was disappointed that Clare had more to the play and should have won the game.
That's the extraordinary thing about Clare. All the years, we've had wonderful teams in at different seasons. They've gone forward. They were beaten here. They were beaten there. But when you expected most from them, there was some hoodoo. There is a hoodoo. No matter what we say, we pretend there isn't. But there is. We never had a better chance than we had this year. And still, we wouldn't be able to make it.
In Ennis, County Clare, the Minister for Local Government, Mr. Tully, has opened a new library and museum which is housed in a former Presbyterian church in Harmony Street. The Minister said that quite apart from providing an improved service for people in the area, the project, by giving the former church a new lease of life, represented an excellent contribution to European architectural heritage here. The new library has room for 21,000 books, and so far it contains some 16,000. In the museum, the exhibits include an ornate door salvaged from a ship off the Spanish Armada, which was wrecked off the Clare coast, while lovers of Percy French's songs may well be interested in the wheelbarrow and spade, which were used by Charles Stewart Parnell when he cut the first sod of the now vanished but immortal West Clare Railway. The museum also incorporates a special reference section on County Clare. The new library has been built in response to a growing demand for such services, and it's also planned to launch an expanded mobile library service in County Clare this year.
Since Friday afternoon, the crowds have been thronging in here, well-behaved crowds, very little trouble according to the police and hoteliers, and they've been coming here for the kind of music that West Clare has become identified with for the past few years. Even the crisis petrol panic didn't stop them. They thumbed, they hitched, they walked, they begged, they borrowed, they came on bicycles and on foot, and they came here to Lisdoonvarna. The actual music itself is taking place about 2 miles out on the Atlantic side of the town. The distinction of Lisdoonvarna has been to get the big names here together all over one weekend. It's only the second year of this Lisdoonvarna festival, and already it's competing with the Cambridge Folk Festival, which is the largest such open-air folk jamboree in these islands. The crowds here have come from many parts of the country, with a hefty amount of visitors from overseas. John Paul II may not know it, but here, out on the western seaboard, facing out into the Atlantic, is his parish, the Pope's parish, the parish of Liscannor, just a couple of miles down here from the Cliffs of Moher, and which indeed includes the Cliffs of Moher. And the reason it's the Pope's parish goes back to an ecclesiastical judgment of the mid-19th century.
Well, as I see it, Galway, Kilmacduagh and Kilfenora were separate dioceses ruled by one bishop. And in 1831, Galway became a diocese. And the Bishop of Galway became Bishop of Galway and of Kilmacduagh. And at that particular time, he was also appointed Apostolical Administrator of Kilfenora. Now we are in the Diocese of Kilfenora, and Liscannor was then the mensal parish of Kilfenora.
When you say the mensal parish, you mean the parish that the bishop drew his revenue from?
That's right. And in the 1920s, there was a priest here by the name of Father Sharkey, and he wrote a book, this little book, and he called it the Pope's Own Parish, because it was the parish from which the bishop got his revenue at that particular time.
There's a very nice description on page 24 of that book, published so long ago.
The Pope's Own Parish of Liscannor is bounded on the south and west by the Bay of Liscannor, the Atlantic Ocean and the Aran Islands, Mutton Island and Kilstefin, and on the east and north by Kilmoon, a parish in the barony of Burn, 8 miles from Innistimon on the road from Ballyvaughan to the Bay of Ballylaheen by Kilshanny, Innistimon and Lahinch.
A bride, a harlot, and of course the gaunt hag of bear. Ireland has always been God-written.
Remarks like that, controversial, acute, wounding, have made Edna O'Brien what she is today, Ireland's top-selling lady novelist. Married
I used. Well, I sing a small shuttle song.
Do.
'Twas friendship made me sing this ditty. 'Twas friendship brought us all united. 'Twas friendship made us all quite happy. 'Twas friendship brought us here today. No matter how humble be our station, hearts like ours we know but few. Hearts like ours will cause sensation. Joys were made for you and me. Then happier we all together, happier we one and all. May we meet with joys of pleasure, may we rise and never fall.
There must be something secretly catastrophic about a country from which so many people go, escape, and the children inherit a trinity of guilts. The guilt for Christ's passion and crucifixion, the guilt for the plundered land, and the furtive guilt for the mother, frequently defiled by the insatiable father. All that scenery, all those undercurrents are too much. The question is not, where have all the fairies gone, but where are all the Irish thinkers?
From her books, it would be reasonable to assume that Edna O'Brien came from a totally deprived West of Ireland background. The reverse was the case. She came of good farming stock, lived in a house which cost a few thousand to build back in the early 20s. Edna O'Brien, the original country girl, the girl with the green eyes, a scandalous woman, but yet the Clare girl, described by the critics as a writer who gets closer to the hearts of women than anyone else. Despite her fame, her notoriety, her parents still remember her, almost as a waif.
She was always very cute as a little girl, and would ask you a lot of questions. She was the youngest of the family, and we'd go out, she'd follow me out the fields, and she'd was very quick to spot anything unusual. If there was a strange dog or anything passing, she'd say, well, who owns that dog? I didn't see him. He don't belong to us.
She was a quiet child, a rather sad person, I would think, but a very observant girl.
She was always inclined to write on scraps of paper, tear out a bit of paper out of a copybook, and she'd write little things on it, and she'd hand them over to me to read them. The spelling mightn't be always all right, but the material was good. She had the ideas.
Yes, I think so. Even when she was a child going to the national school, she used to write little short stories, bits and pieces of her own. I think she always had a flair for writing.
Well, I'd say she's very honest, that she writes what she thinks.
No, her books never made me, shall I say, angry or anything like that.
Well, I went visiting one time, and Edna was very small. She was about 3 or 3.5. And she came with me. But we were going up to this man's house, and we met him on the drive coming down. And he said, which of the girls is this? And I said, that is Edna. So he took Edna up in his arms, and he looked at her, and on his arm, he always said, she's a great girl. And she pointed, and she says, Dada, he has a crooked eye. Oh, Edna, I said, you're not to say that. But he has, she says, and the other one is crooked too.
She was very fond of dogs and animals, and I remember once she said, after coming from being out the field, she says, oh, I was admiring those cows. She said, why? I said, what do you see in them? Oh, I think, she said, they're so happy. She said, they have nothing to trouble them. I wish I was a cow.
What'll I sing? Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the leaves have fallen. 'Tis you must leave when I must buy them.
1.5 minutes gone, still no score. Jimmy O'Donnell trying to get away from Jimmy Cullinan. Cullinan getting it in for Clare, in towards the centre forward. The centre forward gets it in a little bit, in towards the goal. Pat Hartigan gone in, the centre forward pulls on it, it's a goal. Noel Casey, the scorer. Some hesitancy there among the Limerick backs. Let Noel Casey forage that ball from the 50-yard range. Eventually got it over the line, so we the first goal score of the game. To the hole, removed. The ball is about 1 yard inside it. A poor one blocked by Bernie Hartigan. Bernie Hartigan, a long one dropping inside the 21. Blocked down there by the Clare full-back Jim Powell. Jim Powell comes out, pulls on it. He's 50 yards from the book, gets it out towards Maroney. Maroney on the 70-yard line, lofting it. It's going to drop about 20 yards out from the Limerick goal. Ned Ray blocking the ball down, but it goes inside him eventually. A chance again for Jimmy Cullinan, and yes, another Clare goal. Jimmy McNamara, the scorer, number 13, right corner forward. He crossed over to the left corner to get that one. And again, a little bit of hesitancy among the Limerick backs as that high ball dropped on the edge of the square. Jim Hogan to poke the ball out. 2 goals for Clare, no score. Maybe 1953 all over again when Clare scored 10 goals, another Clare attack, but this time a Clare wide. A Limerick forward foul there, so it's a free to Limerick, and this will be taken by Sean Foley. 1 or 2 yards inside the 70-yard mark. Limerick need a score at the moment. They're 2 goals down. I make it 5 minutes gone. As Sean Foley comes and drops, this one is going to drop very near the goal line. Out comes Seamus Durack. Durack, the goalie, with the ball. Clare men and Limerick men all around the place as Durack pulls along the ground, follows and clears eventually to the 60-yard range. Jimmy Cullinan, Jimmy is beaten, it comes back towards Meehan. Meehan, number 5, gets it down the field again towards Jimmy McNamara. Jimmy McNamara and Ned Ray. McNamara holding the ball. 35, now 40 out. He swings it in towards the centre. Jimmy O'Brien deciding not to let it go. It comes towards the full forward. Michael Keane. Michael Keane pulls on the ball. It goes in and it's gone out over the line, and it's a 70. A 70 for Clare. Certainly attacking very hard and very fast. Gus Lohan to take Clare's second 70. Mick Cregan has gone off. He was injured in that last tussle with Gus Lohan, and Gus has pointed the 70, so Clare have now 2 goals and a point on the scoreboard, and Limerick have yet to score. Richie Bennett. Just DJ Meehan. Eamon Grimes getting the ball on the 21, striking it low and hard, and a goal. A goal for Limerick. 6 minutes left. It's their first goal. 3-10 to 1-8. Then 8-3. This is Michael Kilmartin, beaten by Pat Hartigan. Pat coming away, hand passing it down towards his brother Bernie. Brother Bernie racing away. He's coming in towards the 21. This will be hard. It's blocked by one of the backs. It's blocked by Vincent Loftus. Another chance of Limerick here. Willie Moore is blocked by Seamus Durack. Seamus Durack and Eamon Cregan. Eamon Cregan gets it across towards Eamon Grimes. Eamon Grimes pulls the second time. Bernie Hartigan pulling, and it's gone over the bar for a Limerick point. 4 minutes left. Pat Hartigan holding it well. Pat coming away with the ball. Limerick playing very well now in the past 10 minutes, getting it in towards the goal. A chance here for Eamon Cregan, but it's pulled on there. Here comes Andy Dunworth. Andy Dunworth to scoop the ball up. He looks towards the goal and sends it over the bar, and now there's only 2 goals in it. Seamus Durack getting it down, but it comes towards Tim Ryan. Tim Ryan hand passes it across, but held by Pat Hartigan. Pat Hartigan lets it down towards the goal. Andy Dunworth flicking the ball in. The chance here, and a save by Seamus Durack. Seamus Durack. Eamon Cregan had a good chance there, and Seamus Durack comes out to Clare. Bernie Hartigan, well fouled. We're in the last minutes. It's a free to Limerick. There are 2 goals down as Eamon Grimes hits this one low, but it's blocked by Vincent Loftus. Vincent Loftus solos out on the 30-yard mark, on the 40-yard mark, being followed by Limerick men, being robbed by Eamon Grimes. Eamon Grimes trying to get inside Jackie O'Gorman. He gets it in towards the goal. A neat little flick. It's pulled on by Eamon Cregan, but out comes Seamus Durack. Seamus Durack, one of the real stars of this second half, clearing the ball to the far side of the field. It must be very, very near full time at the moment. Paddy McNamara of Clare towards Kilmartin, towards Ned Ray. Ned Ray is the Limerick man. He loses the ball. It comes to Donald Manning. Donald Manning gets it down. It comes to Pat Maloney. Michael Moroney low towards the Jimmy McNamara. Jimmy McNamara out in the half line at the moment. Anywhere will do is his motto at the moment as he gets it down towards the half forward. Jimmy Cullinan. Jimmy is on the ground inside the 21 and it's a free into Clare. And this surely will wrap it up for Clare. Very, very little time left. I saw Frank Murphy look at his watch a few seconds ago. 21 yards out in front of the goal. Tim Ryan the striker, and I'm sure Tim will send this one as far as he can behind the goal. He sent it accurately well behind the goal over the bar. Another point for Clare to make it 3-11 for Clare, 1-10 for Limerick, and we're now in injury time. There can't be much of that. A Mentor coming on the field with a new stick for one of the Clare men. He's the midfielder. Limerick attacking. The ball to Eamon Cregan. He's lost his stick. He solos it off his boot twice. He hand passes it across there to Sean Foley. Sean Foley pocket blocked down by Pat Maloney. Pat Maloney gets it out. It comes towards Eamon Cregan. Eamon Cregan again, and it's a goal for Limerick. Eamon Cregan with his hand, but it might be that little bit too late. They have defeated Limerick here at Ennis Grounds today. 3-11 for Clare, 2-10 for Limerick. Hordes of Claremen coming onto the field. They have 15 heroes, 16 as a matter of fact, because substitute Kilmartin came on for Noel Casey towards the end. The men of the match from the Clare point of view: Gus Lohan in the first half, Seamus Durack in the second half, and Jackie O'Gorman all through. So the final score once again from Limerick, from
Arriving in the Burren on the southern side of Galway Bay, I am always struck by the overall dullness of the place. It's an area of grey limestone without fire or sparkle. In fact, it appears at a distance quite lifeless. So many of the thousands of visitors who come here drive through in search of greener places, and yet the Burren, despite its greyness, deserves a closer look. It's a landscape composed of shattered slabs of ancient rocks. Here, 300 million years ago, there was a sea full of shelly creatures, large and small, which when they died fell to the seabed to form these deposits. What we see today is that same seabed exposed to the elements: sun, wind, rain and ice. The Burren is a walker's paradise, and very soon after arriving here you see the reason why. It's a landscape which fascinates and inspires. contrast to the farmer's slanting patterns. Walls woven of slabs. The burn forms the northern corner of County Clare, 100 square miles of naked rock lying in layer upon horizontal layer, crisscrossed with vertical joints, the result of nature's devastating forces. Here, the elemental force with most effect is water, running across the surface, dissolving the limestone, cutting runnels, exposing fossils of once living creatures that were alive a mere 300 million years ago. After the storms, this water finally gouges its way downwards into the bowels of the earth. Underground, the burn is honeycombed with twisting, turning, dipping tunnels. In the cave of the Yellow Cliff, Ailwee, it is safe to penetrate these intestinal pathways cut by the torrents of time long past. Here and there, the surface is pitted with the remains of petrified sea creatures. Where a stream breaks through, the water pours downwards, leaving behind a thick layer of sediment dissolved from the limestone. In Ailwee's great cascade, this moist calcite is still soft and prey to human destruction from small boys and television teams.
The outskirts of Feakle, County Clare, a housing scheme that brings hope to a community that until recently was heading towards near extinction. For some local men, it means a job at home instead of a London or Birmingham building site. And for the village, these houses signify a new lease of life to a society whose population had been drastically depleted over the years. First, by the old enemy, emigration. And then, in recent years, by the new industries at Shannon and Limerick, siphoning off the young people of the area to their production lines. That was the situation that Father Harry Bohan found when he returned to Shannon in the late 60s. He and a group of local people decided to form a house-building cooperative, and in November 1969 they set up the Rural Housing Organisation, a rather unusual involvement for a priest whose previous experience had been in social work in the English Midlands, and who currently has the rather novel distinction of being an employee of a semi-state body, the Shannon Free Airport Development Company. 12 villages in the area were designated for house development, and work on the first 20 started here at Feakle last April.
Well, they were started really because in spite of developments, industrial development in Shannon, Limerick and Ennis, young people were still leaving the villages. And in fact, I suppose the movement out of villages was even almost accelerated because of developments in the bigger growth centres. So in order to channel the people back into them, we started here about 2 years ago. We've since started in about 12 villages in region of Clare and Limerick, and we have found that the people want to live here, and it's as simple as that.
Why did you yourself become involved in this scheme?
Well, really, I come from Feakle. My roots are here, and I felt that most of the lads that grew up with me and after me had felt the same way about it as I do, and that their first love was Feakle. They wanted to come back here, and I think the same thing applies to most people who leave. That a displaced person can be a very discontented person, and you just can't keep on forcing young people out of the areas where their roots are without expecting trouble. So this is really the reason that. We didn't force them. They said to us they want to live here.
The Rural Housing Organisation estimate that their initial building schemes will need in the region of £600,000. Already, over 30 local tradesmen are employed, In these days of spiralling house prices, the Fecal experiment certainly shows that expensive corners can be cut. A 3-bedroom, centrally heated semi selling at £3,200 is a proposition that surely must be unheard of anywhere else in Ireland in 1973. By using the available local government grants and borrowing the remainder, the Rural Housing Organisation is giving the opportunity to people to live in an environment in which they are best adjusted to, at rock-bottom prices. But for Father Bohan, there is an added personal reason for his involvement in the venture.
The net cost of the houses here, in comparison to Limerick, there seems to be about £3,000 of a difference between here and Limerick at the moment. And obviously, the only conclusion we can come to is that the builders in Limerick are making a substantial profit on the houses, because if we can build for this kind of price, and then obviously they could build for far less, even in Limerick, and even taking the cost of land and things like that into account.
Would you think that cooperative type housing might be something that people should give a closer look to?
Well, I think that if anybody that can approach the building of houses in this kind of way will obviously be cutting the cost by a very substantial amount.
12 months ago, there were only 3 people between the ages of 20 and 30 living in the village of Fecal. By April next, 20 young families will have arrived to breathe a new life into a community that might have been just another statistical casualty of the industrialisation of Ireland.